Sergio Perez has finally delivered the most revealing explanation yet of what life is truly like inside Red Bull racing when you are not Max Verstappen. And the effect of his words has shaken the foundations of Formula One. This was not an angry outburst from a driver who had just lost his seat. It was not an emotional attempt to protect his reputation. It was something far more unsettling, a calm, methodical, and deeply precise breakdown of a system that, according to Perez, was never designed to operate as an equal partnership. By calling the role of Verstappen's teammate the most difficult seat in modern Formula One, Perez did more than describe his own struggle. He opened a window into the inner structure of one of the most successful organizations the sport has ever known. What makes Perez's statement so powerful is not the tone, but the certainty. He does not question Verstappen's ability. He does not challenge his championships. He does not dispute his place in history. Instead, he highlights something far more uncomfortable, that Red Bull's entire competitive philosophy has been centered around one driver from the very beginning. According to Perez, this was not a realization that came after difficult seasons or internal tension. It was made clear to him from the very first conversation he had with Christian Horner, when he was informed that the Red Bull project existed for Max Verstappen. That admission changes everything. Perez was not entering a conventional two-car team, where internal competition is encouraged and balance is maintained. He was stepping into a structure where one driver defined development direction, engineering philosophy, and long-term identity. Two cars existed because regulations required them, but only one driver shaped the future. Perez accepted that reality consciously. He believed that even within those boundaries, he could still contribute, succeed, and build a lasting legacy. At first, it appeared that belief was justified. Perez delivered race wins, crucial podiums, and performances that altered championship outcomes. His defensive masterclass in Abu Dhabi in 2021 remains one of the most important team contributions in modern Formula One history. He slowed Lewis Hamilton long enough to change the entire complexion of the championship battle. That moment alone secured his place in Red Bull folklore. But behind the scenes, Perez describes an environment where performance was never judged in isolation. Every lap, every qualifying session, and every result was filtered through one constant comparison: Max Verstappen. The paradox, Perez explains, was that there was no neutral outcome. Being faster than Verstappen was not interpreted as growth, it was seen as disruption. It unsettled a competitive equilibrium that had been carefully engineered around one driver. At the same time, being slower simply reinforced a hierarchy that was already embedded within the system. Either way, performance did not stabilize Perez's position. It destabilized it. That created a psychological trap. Success generated pressure. Struggle confirmed expectations. There was no stable ground from which to grow organically. In Formula One, drivers rely heavily on feedback loops. You push harder, the car responds, confidence builds, and results follow. Perez's account suggests that at Red Bull, those loops were broken. His performance was never interpreted as an absolute measure, only relative to Verstappen's narrative. His reference point was never the stopwatch alone. It was always proximity to one specific benchmark, regardless of context, track behavior, or car characteristics. The technical side of Perez's story becomes especially compelling when he discusses the early stages of the 2022 season. The RB18 initially carried excess weight and featured a forward-biased balance profile. In modern ground effect cars, that combination produces critical effects. A heavier, front-loaded car tends to be calmer under braking, more predictable on corner entry, and less prone to sudden rear instability. For a driver like Perez, who thrives on stability, progressive rotation, and predictable rear grip, this created an unusually natural connection. During that phase, Perez was not driving reactively. He was driving instinctively. And that distinction matters enormously in Formula One. When a driver can commit fully to corner entry without second-guessing the rear axle, braking points sharpen, minimum speeds increase, and tire usage improves naturally. Perez describes arriving at race weekends with genuine belief that he could fight for victories, not because he felt superior, but because the car finally allowed him to operate within his natural performance window. His claim that he could match or even outperform Verstappen in simulator work was not extraordinary. Simulators often exaggerate balance sensitivity and remove physical risk. What made it significant was what followed. Perez believed this phase represented a baseline from which he could build. Instead, it marked the beginning of a separation that would eventually define his downfall. As upgrades arrived, Perez says the car evolved rapidly toward a sharper front end, more aggressive rotation, and a much narrower operating window. Technically, this aligned perfectly with Verstappen's driving preferences. Verstappen is known for thriving in unstable, pointy cars that reward absolute precision and punish hesitation. Those same traits that unlock Verstappen's speed also punish drivers who depend on predictability and gradual feedback. For Perez, the change erased the intuitive connection he had built. Driving became cognitive instead of instinctive. Instead of attacking corners, he began managing risk. Instead of exploiting the car, he began anticipating its reactions. In elite motorsport, that shift alone can cost tenths per corner, which quickly compounds into full seconds across a lap. The repetition of this pattern in 2023 made the situation impossible to ignore. Early competitiveness followed by sudden regression after development changes suggests a systemic trend rather than coincidence. Perez describes a performance collapse so steep that no amount of preparation, setup experimentation, or psychological effort could compensate. The car stopped communicating clearly, and when communication disappears, confidence collapses. This is where Perez's account becomes deeply uncomfortable for Red Bull. He explicitly rejects the idea that his struggles were rooted in motivation, discipline, or professionalism. Instead, he frames them as structural, an incompatibility between driver profile and development philosophy. In Formula One terms, that is a serious accusation because it implies that the second seat is not failing due to execution, but due to design intent. The involvement of Helmut Marko strengthens this interpretation. Red Bull arranging high-level psychological support suggests that internally, the team assumed the car was correct and the driver needed adjustment. Perez does not dismiss that support, but he draws a firm boundary. Mental resilience cannot override physics. A driver cannot think a rear axle into stability at 300 kilometers per hour. Confidence in Formula One is not emotional, it is mechanical. It is built through trust in predictable behavior. If a driver approaches a corner unsure whether the rear will stick or snap, the subconscious introduces caution. That hesitation is invisible to data overlays, but devastating to lap time. No amount of sports psychology can replace mechanical trust. What Perez ultimately exposes is the brutal reality of Red Bull's second seat. It is not simply about being slower than Verstappen. It is about surviving in an environment with an extremely narrow operating window, a development direction locked to one driver's preferences, and a culture that punishes deviation immediately. That combination has ended the Red Bull tenures of multiple highly rated drivers, not because they lacked ability, but because the margin for adaptation was microscopic. This forces a retrospective reassessment of Red Bull's history. Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, and Sergio Perez were not isolated failures. They were elite drivers entering a system optimized for an extraordinary outlier. Verstappen thrives precisely because the environment evolved around him. Others are consumed because they must adapt continuously while the reference point never shifts. The timing of Perez's comments adds weight to their credibility. He is no longer fighting for contracts or defending his position on the grid. His move to Cadillac places him in a completely different context, one where he will help build a project rather than conform to one. That removes incentive for exaggeration and adds authenticity to his reflections. Joining Cadillac represents a philosophical reset. Instead of entering a hierarchy defined before his arrival, Perez will help shape culture, expectations, and development direction from the ground up. His Red Bull experience, particularly the failures, may become his greatest asset. He understands better than most what happens when a team becomes too narrowly focused. Perez's reflections also challenge a long-standing myth in Formula One, that dominance equals harmony. Red Bull's extraordinary success masked imbalance for years. Winning delayed difficult questions, but Perez suggests sustainability was sacrificed in the process. A system that works perfectly for one driver may struggle the moment circumstances change. Crucially, Perez does not portray himself as a victim. He accepts mistakes. He acknowledges underperformance. He admits when confidence disappeared. That accountability strengthens his credibility. He is not rewriting history. He is contextualizing it. For Red Bull, this testimony cannot be dismissed easily. It is too specific, too consistent, and too aligned with observable patterns. It raises the possibility that their success model, while brutally effective, is inherently exclusionary. None of this diminishes Max Verstappen's greatness. If anything, it emphasizes how rare his adaptability truly is. The car works because it was built around him, and he has the skill to extract everything from it. But Perez's words force a difficult question. Has Red Bull become too dependent on that singular alignment? In the end, Sergio Perez did not shock Red Bull by attacking Max Verstappen. He shocked them by revealing the true cost of racing alongside him. A cost measured not only in lap time, but in confidence, identity, and career longevity. And as Formula One enters a new era with manufacturers like Cadillac challenging long-standing assumptions, Perez's testimony may age less like controversy and more like warning.